So now that this is cool because it's a day later, we can kind of see what he did here. And so this round bar, solid round bar, was welded in like that, and I had to cut that off the frame, cut it off of here, and then he had that angle iron welded on there. So we had to cut that off. We had to cut it all the way because they welded it all the way. Here's what I'm talking about. Look at that bullshit. That's not cool, kids. Not cool. Do not do stuff like this. This is vastly unnecessary.
All it takes is one job, oh yeah. All it takes is one job, and everything is gonna be okay.
This would have ended up a lot cleaner if I hadn't needed to work over somebody else's previous work, of course, because it's been kind of terrible. But this is more what you should be ending up looking like. A nice cut like this is going to be fine. You don't need to plate that. We're going to plate the outside more for cosmetic reasons than anything, and also just so much weird stuff going on here. That's kind of how it's supposed to look. This is another one of their laying another piece over it. Completely unnecessary, but so, you know, overdone. If they wouldn't have put all this shit on here, it would have had more room for that exhaust. But, you know, we're just leaving. It's too much for me to take care of. This is where we cut off that other stuff. I did pretty good without, you know, getting pretty close with that torch and not blowing on the holes. We got one hole right there and one hole right there, but that's not too bad for, oh, there's one right there. Not too bad for blowing that whole thing off and not getting into that other rail, you know. Here's another piece of their other thing. We're gonna have to take that off so we can do a nice piece here. Here's our frame without that box on there. There it is with that. Look at that difference. And that is just nasty. Here's our seam on the bottom. And both frames were built kind of the same. They have this inner and outer C's that weld together in the stitch. So I'd like to just continue that. So I'm gonna cut this out a little ways so I can weld in a square on this one, and then I can weld in a square on this one and seam them together, and it'll look like they haven't even been sectioned here on the bottom. Well, got our cover plate at the bottom there. I like how it looks like it was never jacked with there. Obviously this is a little bigger plate than I'd normally do, but since we had to cover up some previous sin, you know, that's what we got now. But, you know, it's one of the few places you can see, you know, when you're looking at the car from the outside. So I wanted to make sure this section, you know, looked nice. And, you know, it adds strength or whatever. But, you know, that's kind of how you do that. This is 1/8, this is 1/8. You know, so it's all matchy-matchy. And the bottom is, you know, one plate, and then this plate is bigger, so, you know, none of the seams line up. This is our seam that came through here, so none of the seams line up, and then we got a weld that comes down the back of this that, you know, goes and ties it all together. And so with the staggered seams and the different placements and stuff, it makes it to where it's not going to crack across a single seam. You know, if it cracked, then it goes, you know, to a dead end because the seam didn't continue, the weld didn't continue, it stops there. So I'm pretty happy with that. I'm not going to try to make the inside look very pretty. I'm just going to get it back together and I'll clean it up enough to where it's not going to cut somebody or something like that. Brushing up against it, and you know, do the fix all, paint it black. All right, got her in. Got our trans cross member in there. Made our mounts without the use of angle iron. Was able to use the same trans cross member, just had to make new mounts. Got the exhaust back in. Still have to hook up the rear section. That brought the exhaust a lot further up in. And now we have a normal car. Not hodgepodge, not done wrong. Just a nice car. Nice little car.
All it takes is one job, oh yeah. All it takes is one job, and everything